Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Cecil Whitaker. I was 44 when my younger sister, Monica, fired me. For nearly 2 decades, I'd been the engine that kept Whitaker Legacy Hotels running. Not the face of the company, that was always Monica. She wore the designer blazers, graced the hospitality panels, and sipped champagne with investors. I was the one who made sure the rooms were spotless, the HVAC systems humming, and the numbers in the black. Quiet. Unflashy. Reliable. Our father, Henry Whitaker, built this company from a single colonial inn in upstate New York. He was a builder at heart, a meticulous man who believed in legacy, not shortcuts. He used to say, hotels aren't built on marble countertops. They're built on trust and timing. I took that to heart. And for years, Monica and I worked in unspoken balance. She chased the spotlight. I kept the foundation strong. That was, until 3 months ago. I still remember the look on her face when I walked into her office that morning. Smug. Composed. Wearing a blood-red power suit like she was ready for a photo shoot. "Have a seat, Cecil," she said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. I didn't sit. She sighed, steepling her manicured fingers. "This isn't personal. The second someone says that, it always is. You've done good work," she continued, "but the board and I agree, it's time for a more modern operational structure. We've hired a consulting team from Belmore Hospitality to take over your duties. You'll receive a generous severance package, 6 months' salary." I stood there, stunned. 17 years. 17 years of early mornings, late nights, missed holidays, and manual labor she wouldn't dream of doing. She was replacing me with a PowerPoint and a focus group. I glanced around her office. Pristine white shelves. Gold-framed certificates. A massive wall photo of her shaking hands with the mayor at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Nowhere was there a photo of our grandfather. Or our first inn. Or our parents. Legacy wasn't Monica's currency. Optics were. "You really think you can do this without me?" I asked, my voice low. She didn't flinch. "I know I can." I nodded once. "Then good luck with the Hudson Park remodel." A flash of hesitation flickered across her eyes. That project was already 6 months behind schedule and bleeding cash. But she covered it up with her usual smirk. "Belmore specializes in large-scale turnarounds. They'll handle it." I picked up the framed picture of me and my father from my desk. He was smiling, arms slung over my shoulder on the porch of our first hotel. It was the day we reopened after renovations. The photo had a scratch on the bottom right corner from when I dropped it during a fire drill years ago. I left the office without saying another word. But Monica had made one fatal mistake. She thought she'd removed me from the game. She had no idea, I owned the board. I didn't cry. Not when I packed my desk. Not when I passed the front desk where I'd personally trained the staff to greet guests with a smile and an open hand. Not even when I sat in my car staring at the building where I'd spent more waking hours than my own home. But the next morning, the silence hit me. No maintenance alerts. No staff check-ins. No guest complaints forwarded from the front desk. No early morning reports from night audit teams. Just silence. I stood in my kitchen, coffee in hand, staring out the window at the Hudson River, asking myself one impossible question. Who was I if I wasn't part of Whitaker Legacy? For 17 years, I was the person people came to when the generator failed during a blizzard, when a bride ceremony was nearly ruined by a burst pipe, when staff needed someone to fight for better benefits. I was the invisible glue. The keeper of calm. Now I was, unemployed. My phone buzzed. A text from Jonas, head of facilities at our flagship property in Albany. Heard what happened? This new team's clueless. Already cut maintenance hours. We've got water damage in 3 rooms and no one's approved the fix. I typed back. Sorry to hear. Hope they figure it out. I hit send, then stared at the screen, fingers shaking. I wasn't sorry. I was livid. But I wouldn't give Monica the satisfaction of knowing it. 2 hours later, I got another message. This time from Lucy, our front desk manager in Hartford. Guests are complaining. New ops guy told us to upsell harder instead of offering room upgrades. Morale's in the toilet. We miss you. I stared at the message until my coffee went cold. What made it worse was that Monica wasn't stupid. She was arrogant, ruthless, and obsessed with branding, but she wasn't incompetent. She knew I was the one who kept the operations running smoothly. She knew how much the staff respected me. She just didn't care. Monica wanted to transform Whitaker Legacy Hotels from a regional chain of worn, authentic boutique properties into a trendy, Instagrammable empire with generic aesthetics and profit-first policies. A lifestyle brand, she called it. But hospitality wasn't just style. It was soul. And she'd gutted it. I opened the drawer of my desk and pulled out a folder. Inside were my notes from the last real conversation I had with our father, Henry Whitaker, before he retired and handed over the company to Monica. It was 2 years ago, during lunch at the Red Rooster Cafe. He'd just turned 70, and the weight of running the business had started to wear on him. Monica has ambition, he said, slicing into his steak. But you, Cecil, you have roots. You think long-term. You plan. You build. I smiled at the compliment, unsure of where he was going. You know what's more valuable than a hotel? He asked. I shrugged. The land it sits on. That one sentence changed everything. That day, he told me that 3 of our most profitable hotels, Burlington, Hudson Park, and Albany, sat on leased land. Long-term deals from the early 80s that were about to expire. The original owners had passed away. Their kids were looking to sell. I remember his exact words. The next person to own those parcels. They'll hold all the cards. I had taken his advice seriously. Without telling anyone, not even Monica, I quietly began acquiring the land beneath those 3 hotels. Using savings, smart loans, and a holding company named CW Partners, I finalized all purchases over the next 8 months. The company continued leasing the land from CW Partners, with me signing lease renewals from both ends of the table. I hadn't done it out of spite. I had done it to protect the family business. To make sure if anything ever went wrong, I had a way to stabilize us. But now, that lifeline had become my weapon. Monica didn't even realize who owned the ground she was walking on. I pulled up the lease agreements on my laptop. All properly documented. All public. All legal. And all signed by her, as acting president of the company. She'd approved rent checks to CW Partners for 18 months without bothering to ask who the company was. She never cared about the boring side of the business, maintenance, infrastructure, or ownership logistics. She only looked at headlines. And that was her blind spot. I picked up the phone and called my lawyer, Patricia Melrose. Hey, it's Cecil. I need you to draft a notice of lease renewal adjustment. To what terms? She asked. I exhaled slowly. Market rate. No discounts. No special clauses. She paused. That'll triple their monthly lease cost. I know, I said. Send it to Monica. She won't know what hit her. As I hung up, I realized something. Monica had taken my job. But I still held the ground she stood on. And I was done playing nice. A week after I sent the lease renewal notice to Monica's office, everything went quiet. Not a phone call. Not a text. Not even a legal inquiry. She didn't know what to do. Which meant she was panicking. I imagined her pacing around her office, red heels clicking against the marble floor she insisted we install last year, full luxury masking poor judgment. She'd probably called an emergency meeting with her consultants, her legal team, maybe even tried to Google how to get out of a commercial lease you didn't realize you signed with your brother. That image alone made me smile. But it wasn't about revenge yet. Not really. I wanted her to feel the consequences of her choices. To understand the weight of the legacy she dismissed so casually. But as I sat down that afternoon to organize my documents and prepare for what I assumed would be a legal back and forth, something strange caught my eye. I was going through public real estate records, making sure everything on my end was buttoned up, when a familiar name popped up. Monica Renner. Her married name. It was on a permit application for a new development site just 10 minutes from our Hudson Park property. That stopped me cold. I clicked deeper into the file. The applicant? Renner Vision, LLC. A company I'd never heard of. The listed business activity? Luxury hospitality development. My stomach sank. No. She wouldn't. Would she? I ran a broader search across state property filings. My fingers trembled slightly as page after page loaded. Permit. 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 All under Renner Vision. All filed over the last 24 months. Albany. Burlington. Schroon Lake. Hudson Valley. All within our core markets. All with designs for boutique hotels that look suspiciously like our own style, only more modern. More influencer-ready. A chill ran down my spine. Monica wasn't just trying to change Whitaker Legacy from the inside. She was building her own hotel empire, in direct competition. And worse? She'd been planning this while still pulling a salary from the family business. I immediately called Patricia, my lawyer. I need you to dig into a company called Renner Vision LLC. Find out everything. She didn't ask questions. She didn't have to. 3 days later, I got the full report. Monica had been secretly courting investors, using Whitaker Legacy's numbers and reputation as the proof of concept for her new venture. Her business plan stated that her new company would leverage market familiarity and brand expertise gained through Whitaker Legacy hotels. In plain English, she was stealing everything we'd built and using it to fund her new playground. All those new policies she implemented, efficiency cuts, automation, staff reductions, they weren't about modernization. They were about devaluation. She wanted Whitaker Legacy to sink. So she could buy up its assets, spin up her own brand, and crown herself as the hospitality visionary who rescued the industry from outdated family business models. She didn't fire me because I was obsolete. She fired me because I was in the way. It was no longer just betrayal. This was premeditated corporate treason. That same night, I got a call from a familiar number. Vincent Ross. One of Monica's old business school friends, and now a sitting board member of Whitaker Legacy. Cecil, he said without greeting, his voice tense. You need to know. Monica's preparing to propose a motion to sell off the Burlington, Albany, and Hudson Park properties. I blinked. What? She says the lease renewals make them unprofitable. She wants to liquidate and refocus the company's footprint. I stood in my kitchen, staring at nothing. This was it. The final piece. She's going to buy the properties herself, I said aloud. Vincent hesitated. I can't confirm that, but she's definitely planning something. And fast. She's going to make Whitaker sell the buildings, I continued, heart pounding. Then have Renner Vision buy them at a discount. And I'd be her landlord. She'd be leasing her own company's buildings from her brother, who she tried to erase. Vincent didn't deny it. I thought you deserved to know, he said. The board meeting is Thursday. She's going to push hard. I hung up and sat in silence. This wasn't just about Monica anymore. It was about the people. The staff who worked under me for years. The loyal guests who returned because we built places that felt like home. The families that relied on this company to feed their kids and pay their mortgages. If Monica succeeded, she'd destroy all of that, for ego and profit. So I made a decision. I wouldn't just block her plans. I'd burn them down. If Monica thought I was just going to sit back and watch her bulldoze our legacy, she hadn't been paying attention the past 17 years. What she didn't know, and what she'd never bothered to learn, is that the most dangerous man in the room is the one no one sees coming. And I had waited long enough. That night, I made 3 calls. The first was to Julian Hayes, CEO of Commonwealth Hotels, a mid-sized chain with deep resources and a reputation for buying distressed properties without gutting staff or gutting character. We'd met at a few regional conferences over the years. He once tried to poach me as an operations VP. At the time, I declined. Now, the timing couldn't be more perfect. Julian, I said when he picked up. I hear you're still looking for expansion properties in the Northeast. I am, he replied. Why? You got a lead? I've got 3. The second call was to Miguel Alvarez, our longtime head of maintenance at Hudson Park. He was loyal to a fault, sharp as a tack, and he'd been miserable under Monica's new regime. Miguel, I said. I need a favor. Quiet, but important. For you, always, he replied without hesitation. I asked him to discreetly gather performance reports, staffing rosters, and maintenance backlogs for all 3 properties. I needed proof, undeniable documentation, that under Monica's leadership, standards had plummeted. It didn't take long. 2 days later, Miguel handed me a USB drive. New consultant slashed preventative maintenance by 40%, he said. Guest complaints are rising, and 4 of our best guys quit last week. I thanked him and promised him one thing: you'll have a job, Miguel. No matter what happens. The third call I made was to Patricia, my attorney. I want to draft a proposal, I told her. If Whitaker Legacy votes to sell the Burlington, Albany, and Hudson Park buildings, I want Commonwealth Hotels ready to buy. She paused. You're really doing this? Yes, I said. But I don't want a fire sale. I want fair market value. And I want guarantees, all current staff retained, all current guest commitments honored. And what do you want in return? She asked. I stay on. As a consultant. Behind the scenes. No spotlight. No boardroom. Just, the work. Patricia chuckled. Still allergic to attention, huh? Just loyal to the right things. She understood. I wasn't doing this just to hurt Monica. I was doing this to protect the people she was stepping on to build her glittering empire. The morning before the board meeting, I flew to New York and met Julian in his corner office overlooking Central Park. I handed him the proposal. This isn't just a real estate deal, I said. It's a rescue mission. These properties are the heart of the Northeast market. Under the right leadership, they'll thrive. Under Monica, they'll rot. Julian reviewed the financials, the staff structure, the guest ratings. Impressive, he said finally. And you'll stay on to manage transitions? Yes. But no press. No headlines. I don't want my name in any of it. Why? Because this isn't about me. It's about saving what's left. Julian leaned back in his chair and gave a slow nod. All right, he said. Let's do it. I didn't attend the board meeting the next day. I didn't need to. Because that morning, before Monica could pitch her idea of selling off our best properties for restructuring, every board member received a sealed folder. Inside, Monica's own signature on inflated lease renewals, paid to my holding company. Proof that she never read the contracts. Evidence of her secondary LLC, Renner Vision, and her secret development permits filed in the same towns as our properties. And lastly, an offer from Commonwealth Hotels to acquire the buildings at full value, preserve jobs, and maintain brand integrity. I didn't have to say a word. Monica had already buried herself. At 7:30 p.m. that night, I got a call. Cecil. It was Vincent Ross. His voice was tight. You weren't at the meeting. I didn't need to be, I replied. There was a long pause. The board rejected Monica's proposal. Unanimously. Except your father, he abstained. There's more. I'm listening. She's furious. She didn't know you owned the land. She accused you of orchestrating the whole thing. I said nothing. Then, Vincent continued, we showed her the Renner Vision documents. The filings. The business plan that mentions using Whitaker resources to fund a competitor. And she didn't deny it. A silence lingered. Then Vincent added, the board is calling for her resignation. Tomorrow. I didn't say I told you so. I didn't need to. The truth was doing the work for me. As Monica's grip on the company crumbles, she lashes out in desperation, and triggers a last-ditch scheme that could blow everything up. But Cecil is 10 steps ahead, and prepared to deliver a blow she'll never recover from. The day after the board meeting, I walked into the downtown Boston office of Whitaker Legacy Hotels for the first time in months. I wasn't there to reclaim my job. I was there to bury Monica's illusion of control, for good. The elevator ride to the 16th floor was quiet. No nervous interns, no familiar hallway banter. Just sterile silence, like the building itself knew something was ending. At reception, the assistant barely looked up before saying, she's not taking walk-ins today. She'll take this one, I replied, handing over an envelope with a single sheet inside, the finalized acquisition terms from Commonwealth Hotels. 10 minutes later, I stood in the boardroom across from Monica. She didn't even sit. Her jaw was tight, her eyes bloodshot, and her blouse slightly wrinkled, uncharacteristically undone. The mask was slipping. Congratulations, she hissed. You played your little game and won. What do you want now? Applause? I want you to stop pretending this wasn't your doing, I said calmly. You started this the moment you fired me. Her nostrils flared. You think I didn't know you were undermining me from the beginning? You manipulated the board. You bought the land behind our backs. Correction, I interrupted. I bought the land years ago, when our father still trusted me to handle the unglamorous things you never bothered to learn about. You've been paying rent to my holding company for 18 months, Monica. Her face blanched, just for a second. Then came the venom. You're a parasite, she spat. You think owning dirt makes you smarter? You wouldn't last a week running a modern chain. Maybe, I said, stepping forward. But I know how to run one with integrity. And I don't siphon off resources to build a secret company while stabbing my staff in the back. Her lips twitched. That hit the mark. She turned away and stared out the massive glass windows overlooking the Boston skyline. You think this is over? That I'll just slink away and vanish? No, I said. You'll be remembered. Just not the way you hoped. 2 days later, the board officially accepted Monica's resignation. She didn't even show up to sign the papers. She sent a proxy attorney instead, someone cold, who didn't look anyone in the eye. Vincent called me that afternoon. She's gone, he said simply. Left a note for your father. Haven't seen him this quiet in years. I thanked him and hung up. But Monica wasn't finished, not yet. I found out the next morning when my lawyer Patricia called me. She filed a motion with the zoning commission in Hudson Valley, she said. She's trying to fast-track permits for a new project under Renner Vision. I blinked. She still thinks she can build. She's pulling every string she has left. Likely trying to launch something before the press finds out about the board scandal. I sat in silence for a moment. Then said, "It's time we made a few calls of our own." The first went to Julian Hayes at Commonwealth. "Julian, remember those transition documents we discussed for the staff? They're ready. And the rebranding plans? Finalized. And the press release? Just waiting on your green light." "You have it," I said. We scheduled the announcement for 9 a.m. the next morning. At 9:01 a.m., the hospitality world exploded. "Commonwealth Hotels acquires Whitaker Legacy flagships in landmark deal," was the headline on every industry site. But what made it bigger, viral, was the quiet detail in the article's final paragraph. The properties were purchased from Whitaker Legacy Hotels, who have been leasing the land from CW Partners, a holding company privately owned by former executive Cecil Whitaker. People put the pieces together fast. Reddit lit up. Industry blogs buzzed. One viral post called it, "the quiet brother who outsmarted his sister in the ultimate corporate revenge." By noon, Monica was trending on LinkedIn. By nightfall, a hospitality podcast aired a bonus episode titled, "How Ego Kills Empires, the Monica Whitaker Story." I didn't listen to it. I didn't need to. The final blow came from an unexpected angle. Julian called me at 3 p.m. the next day. "You should see this," he said. He forwarded me a letter from one of Monica's original investors, a hedge fund partner who'd committed millions to Renovision. The letter officially withdrew all funding, citing misrepresentation of proprietary data, undisclosed conflict of interest, and breach of fiduciary duty. Her house of cards had collapsed. Later that evening, I received a brief email from Monica. No greeting. No apology. No signature. Just one sentence. "You were always the boring one." I stared at the screen. Then typed my reply. "And you were always the hurricane. But guess which one builds something that lasts?" Then I deleted the draft. Some things don't deserve an answer. I thought it was over. Monica was out. The properties were safe. Staff were retained. Commonwealth was handling operations better than I'd ever hoped. And me? I was finally sleeping through the night. But then, my father asked me to dinner. That shouldn't have been strange. After all, we'd grown closer in recent months. He was adjusting to retirement, even taking up fishing again. We met for breakfast often, exchanged texts about his grandkids, and kept our conversations light. But this dinner felt different. The moment I stepped into the steakhouse, the same one where he first told me to invest in land, he looked like he was carrying the weight of a decade. He didn't smile. Didn't stand. Just gestured toward the seat across from him and said, "We need to talk." I sat, silent, waiting. He stared at the table, then slowly reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I should have told you years ago," he said. I unfolded it. It was an email. Dated 6 years ago. From Monica to my father. Subject, succession plan, urgent. My hands trembled as I read. "Dad, I need your help. I know Cecil is technically qualified, but he doesn't understand branding, scale, or expansion strategy. We need to present a united front. I can be the face of this company. He can't. Please back me when I pitch to the board." My mouth went dry. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an ultimatum. And at the bottom, my father's reply. "Understood. I'll handle Cecil." I couldn't speak. I just looked at him. "You knew," I finally whispered. "You knew what she was planning." "I didn't know about Renovision," he said quickly. "I never imagined she'd go that far. But you knew she wanted me out. And you said nothing." His face crumpled. "I thought she was right," he said, voice cracking. I thought your skills were outdated. That she'd take the company to the next level. I was tired, Cecil. I was looking for the easier path. My chest burned. Not with rage, but with something deeper. Betrayal. Worse than Monica's. Because I hadn't just trusted my father, I'd built my life around honoring his legacy. You let me get fired, I said. You let her humiliate me. And you stood by like a coward. He didn't defend himself. Just sat there, looking small. I thought you'd bounce back, he murmured. You always do. I pushed the paper back across the table. You didn't just back the wrong horse, I said. You backed the one that tried to burn the barn down. He nodded, silent. I don't want anything from you, I added. No apologies. No explanations. I just want the truth. He looked up. She scared me, he said quietly. Not physically. But the way she thinks, the ambition, the coldness. She reminded me of my own father. Ruthless. And for a while. I thought maybe that's what we needed. Do you still think that? No, he whispered. I think we needed you. That night, I walked along the harbor, unsure what to do with the storm inside me. I'd won the battle. I'd outmaneuvered Monica. Saved the staff. Preserved the legacy. But now I saw the cost. Years of silence, resentment, and pressure had turned my family into strangers. And even though Monica had finally fallen, she'd taken something real from me on the way down. The next morning, I opened my laptop to a surprising email. Subject, urgent, regarding Renner Vision bankruptcy filing. It was from Patricia. I called her immediately. She filed this morning, Patricia said. Renner Vision is bankrupt. Investors pulled out. Vendors want their money. It's collapsing fast. She'll blame me, I muttered. She already has. But there's something else. What? Patricia cleared her throat. There's a secondary LLC. Registered under your father's name. I froze. What? It's called Whitestone Capital Holdings. It appears he, personally co-signed the initial loans for Renner Vision. I couldn't breathe. So he lied again. I'm not sure he even realized how deep he was in. But Cecil, his name is on millions in debt. If this goes south, it could wipe out everything he has left. Later that day, I returned to my father's house. He was on the back porch, staring out at the old garden my mother once loved. You funded her, I said. He didn't turn around. I just wanted her to feel supported. Like I believed in her. Maybe if I did, she'd turn out better. She used you. He nodded. I lost both my kids, he said. One to ambition. One to silence. We sat in quiet for a long time. Then I said something I hadn't planned. I'll help you. He turned, startled. I'll call the bank. I'll buy out the debt. Personally. Quietly. Why? He asked, voice cracking. After everything? Because you're still my father, I said. And because I don't want her failure to become your ruin. He cried then. Not loud. But the kind that breaks something inside you. By the time Renner Vision officially folded, the hospitality world had moved on. Industry sites had already crowned it the most spectacular flameout since Thera Sweets. A cautionary tale of arrogance, overreach, and blind ambition. Monica's name became a punchline in real estate circles. Her LinkedIn profile vanished. Her phone went to voicemail. Her once bright path into the limelight collapsed into a single, smoldering crater. But I didn't gloat. Not publicly. Not privately. Because by then, I had found something more valuable than revenge. Peace. After quietly buying out my father's financial liability in Whitestone Capital Holdings, I structured it so that none of the debt would trace back to him in court. He wouldn't lose the house, the lake cabin, or his retirement accounts. But I didn't tell Monica. Some lessons don't stick unless there's silence. The final time I saw her was unplanned. It was at the Harbor View Hotel, formerly our flagship Hudson Park property, now rebranded and thriving under Commonwealth Hotels. She was standing across the street. Hair pulled back. Dressed in gray. Thinner. Hollow. Watching it from behind a lamppost like a stranger revisiting a home she burned down. She didn't see me. And I didn't say a word. The building looked almost the same from the outside. But inside? It felt different. The staff had new uniforms. The lobby had been upgraded, tastefully, not flashily. Miguel was still there, smiling, leading a training for new hires. I stayed out of sight, working behind the scenes as a regional consultant for Commonwealth. No board meetings. No title wars. Just the work. And I liked it that way. A few months later, I got a call from my father. He wanted to have dinner, with the grandkids. It was at a small Italian place near his house. Nothing fancy. Just pasta, laughter, and stories that didn't involve business deals or betrayals. At one point, my niece, Monica's daughter, pulled me aside. "Auntie says you're mad at her," she said, innocent. I knelt down, smiled. "I'm not mad," I told her gently. "I just think some people forget what matters. But I won't forget you, okay?" She nodded, then hugged me. And in that moment, I knew the truth. Legacy isn't about buildings or brand names. It's about the people who walk through the doors. The ones who smile when they see you. The ones who stay loyal when everything else breaks. The ones who remember not what you built, but how you made them feel. 1 year to the day since I was fired, I stood on the rooftop terrace of the Harbor View Hotel. The same place Monica once dismissed me. Now. I watched guests laughing below, families arriving for weddings, staff joking at the valet stand. Julian joined me with 2 glasses of bourbon. 17% year-over-year increase, he said, handing me one. "Your staff? Solid. Guest reviews? Best in the region." I nodded. "This was never about numbers," I said. "I know," he replied. "That's why it worked." We clinked glasses. He left me alone to watch the sun melt over the bay. Later that night, I sat at my desk and opened the top drawer. Inside was a photo. Me and my father, standing in front of the original we'd renovated together. His arm around me. My face clean-shaven, young, hopeful. I slipped it into a new frame. Then placed it on the shelf of my new office. Not a corner suite. Just a quiet, windowed room in the back of the building, close to the staff, where the real work happened. Where I belonged. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.